you either need to control click or right click, but you should be able to bring up a menu, sort of like this menu, and you should be able to scroll down to something called View Page Source. So on a Mac, on a Mac and using Firefox, it's control click. It's slightly different on every machine.
Everybody have that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the page source comes up on my other screen, so let me drag it over here. And so this is the first bit of HTML. So step 2 was your client sends the HTTP request. Step 3 is server returns HTML. So, before getting into the HTML itself, there's a fourth step that takes place before you can see something. And that fourth step, should have started higher. The fourth step is that your browser does something called rendering. Now, what rendering means is that your browser takes the HTML, which looks like this, as you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, and turns it into what you see on the screen. Now, obviously this is an excruciatingly simple example. If you look at DailyLit itself, it looks like this. But again, the web is completely transparent. You can look behind the scenes here. You can say, what does that look like? And, well, if I come over here and drag it over, you'll see, well, that already looks a whole lot more complicated. There's a lot more stuff going on here. So what your browser needs to do is it needs to ingest all of that stuff that got returned by the server, and then it needs to say, okay, I now need to draw on the screen what this thing means. And that's what's called rendering.
So if we did the, whatever it is, view source on a website, you would see that?
You can do that on any website. That's one of the great beauties of the internet. And that's one of the reasons that has accounted for the rapid growth of the internet, is that if you see somebody else doing something cool, you can actually look at it. You can look at how they're doing it. So it's very transparent that way, and very open. So, are those 4 steps relatively clear so far? So with that as kind of a preliminary, we're going to jump in and we're going to start creating some of our own HTML. And initially we're going to do it locally on each of our own machines, and then later we're going to get to a step as to how you bring it from your machine to a server. We're going to get to that in a second. So if you're on the Mac, I want you to fire up text edit. And if you are...
Is that Word?
No, text edit. It's a simple text editor. You can find it under applications. And if you're on a Microsoft, I want you to fire up Notepad.
Under Finder,
It's inside of applications.
you just do under Finder.
Yeah. And one of the things you need to do in text edit is you need to change it from this, where it has this stuff here. You need to go to the format menu and change it to make plain text. It makes these things disappear. I don't know whether you just saw that. The reason we need to do that is because we don't want there to be anything in the file other than the things we put in there. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to do the hello world example. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here we go. So what I want you to type is HTML, it's in these angle brackets. So it looks like this. HTML. these things, these whole things are called tags. And they always come in twos, in pairs. I'm saying always, there'll be exceptions, but they always come in pairs, and it's good practice to create your entire pair right as you go. So the pairs are always called an opening tag and a closing tag. And to make your life easy, the closing tag looks just like the opening tag, except that it has a slash in here. So it has an angle bracket, which is the less than sign, the slash, and then it's the closing bracket. So I'm going to crank up my font size here a little bit if I can, so it's easier for you to see. Okay, that should be easier to see. So let's put the closing tag in there right away.
Can you make it a little bigger, Albert, for the camera? It's a little hard to see. Thanks. Perfect.
All right. So then, the next tag you're going to need is this tag, and I'll explain what these are in a second. And let's again create a match set right away. And then we're going to place the words "Hello World."
Sorry, so you do the 2 at the top and the 2 at the bottom?
Yeah, but so what you call this is this is the outermost containing tags. Any HTML you write has to go between those 2 tags. Every HTML document starts with an opening HTML tag and ends with a closing HTML tag. Every single one. The stuff that you want displayed on the screen goes inside of the body tag. And again, they come as a match set, an opening body tag and a closing body tag. Now what I want you to do is I want you to save that file, and so that you can easily save it on your desktop. And if you want to prevent desktop clutter, create a folder on your desktop called training or whatever, and then put it in that folder. And make sure that if in text edit, when you go to save,
Wait, we're not done.
okay, sorry. Alright, has everybody typed their Hello World example?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go to save, there are a couple of things that are important. The first thing is, if it's not showing you this, if it's not saying plain text encoding, etc., you've done something wrong, and it's in rich text format, and it's not going to work. So you want to make sure it says that. And the next thing you want to make sure is that you change the name of the file to reflect that it's not containing text, but it's containing HTML. So I'm calling this hello world.html. If you're on a Mac, you want to uncheck that box. You have no extensions provided, use text. If you keep it checked, it's not the end of the world either, but it's going to provide you an extra prompt. I'm going to save that. I had a version, so I'm going to say replace. Now, I want you to go to your browser, to your web browser, and in your web browser, I want you to choose File, Open File. All web browsers, instead of going to a server, any web browser, no matter what you use, whether you use Firefox or Safari or Internet Explorer, go to the File menu and choose Open File. And then, in this case, I'm going to open the hello world.html file. And voila, there it is. Hello world. All right.
Yep, there it is. So exciting.
Fine.